All right. So I wanted to thank you so much for popping on this evening on our Wine Wednesday call. We've had several teammates that have been asking as far as fundraising for nonprofits and how to reach out to them and really what to do. So we decided to come up with a training this evening to talk specifically about reaching out to nonprofits and how to hold these events. So for those of you that haven't jumped on a Wine Wednesday call yet, my name is Demetriou, and we have 6 of our amazing teammates this evening that are going to share some tips with you. So we have Miss Stephanie Crawford. Want to give a little wave. Beth Spadaccino. We have Joe Botta, Kimberly Cronin, and then Amanda Hickman, who's going to be popping on in a little bit. So the way that we are going to run our call this evening is that we basically broke our information down into specific topics, and then we are all going to share our tips and kind of how-tos for each section, and then at the end of the training we'll have time for questions, so then you can unmute yourself and ask any questions that you may have, as well as, you know, feel free to add any questions in the chat box as we are going along. And I do ask if you don't mind just muting yourself so that we don't have any background noise. We are going to record this so that we can share it for anyone that couldn't make it this evening. And we're going to kick it off. So we have Steph, who's going to kind of start out the training and talk about, you know, how do we go about locating nonprofits? Now we can't hear you, Steph. Well, now you're muted. No problem. So as Steph, I think she's going to log off and log back in. Okay. So as far as locating nonprofits, it's not as much as you're thinking of ways to going about doing this. There's all different tools that you can use. Technology is great. So here comes Steph. Let's see if it works so that she can.
Can you hear me?
Yes. All right, take it away, Steph.
Sorry about that, guys. Gotta love
No,
some
that's okay.
difficulties. Nothing about my day has been ordinary, so it's okay. We roll with it. I'm going to talk to you guys tonight about where to find nonprofits, how to start your search, and some where to look, and not only where to look, but maybe how to like narrow some things down. So first of all, I'll state the obvious, and that would be Google. I had started with just like, okay, let me see what nonprofits are in my area, local to me. So you might want to say within my county, you know, specifically, so I live in Bucks County, PA. I type in local nonprofits to Bucks County, PA, see what comes up. And then you kind of like branch out from there as you're learning about what's around you. Another good tip is that not only if you start there, but for example, October is breast cancer awareness. So there are very large nonprofits throughout the country. And a lot of times nonprofits that are so incredibly large, the donations we can give them, unfortunately, are not up to what they're typically, sometimes some nonprofits say we won't take a donation if it's less than $10,000. So that's why I always say, look for the smaller local nonprofits. It can be across the country, but just start within your area is a good place to zone in on that. So for example, this month I looked up local nonprofits to support, you know, breast cancer this month near me. And then as I found some, I then reached out to like counties that were around me and then within my state. And I reached out to them this month to share our pink glitter Chardonnay bottle. So what's awesome is even if this month passes and they can't do something with you, we get to fundraise 365 days a year for these people. So you can say, well, if your October's full, we can continue to fundraise November, December, January, suggest other options for them. And then look ahead on the calendar and see what November supports, what December supports, and then start looking at nonprofits in your area, that are going to be kind of highlighted for those months. So besides Google, I would also search Facebook. And here's how I did it, because there's a really cool feature that Facebook does. So if you type in nonprofits, again, you can make it super specific, either to a specific type of nonprofit. For example, if I'm looking for autism, I might be looking in my area, or a nonprofit that supports ABA therapy. And when I find one and I go to their page, if I like them, it will then show me other nonprofits similar to right there on that page if you scroll down a little bit. And if you play around with that feature a little bit, you kind of go down a rabbit hole of nonprofits, because you'll be surprised how many are out there. And I think tonight, once you take the tips and the verbiage that we can give you for reaching out to them, and you set aside time to, find that set group, start there and get those messages out, you'll start hearing things back, and you'll be rolling with nonprofit fundraisers before you know it. And you can use these to fill your pipeline up in between doing, your other tastings. Let me make sure I didn't have any other tips. My last tip: make a post on Facebook. And Laura Demetriou just did this morning beautifully. She said, do you love raising money, or what's your favorite nonprofit? Poll your friends and see what they tell you. Oh yeah, I love giving back to this nonprofit. Great. You're then going to do one or two things. You're going to say, okay, great. Do you want to host so we can give back to that amazing nonprofit? And if they're not interested, then go directly to the nonprofit. It's another great way to learn about what your friends and family love as well that's important to them. So those are my tips for where to begin when finding nonprofits to reach out to. There you go. I love it. Everything's delayed tonight. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. And I loved, Kim, too. You're saying look ahead at the monthly causes and then find local charities that support them. Joe, I was actually going to ask if you don't mind chiming in. You did something you were watching TV, wasn't it? Or you're hearing something on a news station, but did you want to kind of share a little bit how you came across one of the organizations that you worked with?
Yeah, sure. Actually, when I first started with One Hope, I was looking for a charity or some kind of fundraising event, and we were basically in the throes of COVID. So I guess it was at the beginning of May, and we were near Memorial Day weekend, and I was at the beach, and I was watching TV, and I was looking for something with veterans or something patriotic, and a commercial came on for TAPS, which is a tragedy assistance program for survivors, which, they help, families that have had a death within, their families with the military related, and they help these families. They have no government funding. So I connected through their website with one of the, leaders there, and we started emailing back and forth, and we connected. And I ran a charity event for them, online fundraiser for 21 days, and we raised close to $1,000 for them. And then also in the same breath, when I was watching TV, because we watched a lot of TV during COVID, I was watching Fox News, the local news, and they did a thing on Mediteti, which was a Connecticut family, which has a daughter that has a blood deficiency and needed transfusions all the time. So she created this teddy bear, which goes over IV units, and they're a nonprofit charity organization. And I reached out to them and connected with the mom who kind of runs the foundation with the daughter. And we did a fundraiser for them and raised close to $800 for them. So two good stories, both off of TV, and just thinking ahead and trying to plan out events as we go forward, and looking for charities which people will support and look favorably upon, and buy wine and donate to them.
That's awesome, Joe. And I love that you said you were like brand new and you're just going to tackle it. You're like, why not? These are two causes that I just saw that I'd love to support, and might as well give it a go.
Most charities aren't going to turn you down. I mean, if you make a good case and tell the story, especially with One Hope donating over $5 million to charities and running a wine event, and they're going to get the profits, and of the 10%. And if obviously, if you want to be more charitable, give a little bit more of a percentage. However you want to work it out within your own system, it becomes a really good thing for the charity. It's kind of free money.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that it's no cost to them. So you can do this online wine event, and and there's an uncap on donation too. No
Right.
cap on donation. I just made that up. I'm sorry. So did anybody else want to chime in? Did anyone else have ideas as far as finding organizations? Beth?
I want to jump in. I have been contacting a lot of nonprofits recently through Instagram. So we all joke around about sliding into people's DMs, and I've literally been doing it for the past 3 months with nonprofits, and it's been really successful. So I'm going to try and show you my phone real quick. So if you guys are familiar with Instagram, do you see the little search button right there? You're going to click on that, and then you're going to come up. It's going to show, whatever they want to show you, but at the very top, you have your search bar. So once you touch that search bar, you're going to have the option to search for, I'm sorry if it's hard to see, top, accounts, and then you want to click on tags. So once you click on tags, as you can see, my most recent searches have been rescue, end alls. You can search tags. You can just search straight up nonprofit. And then once you search that, you can click on, there's top or recent. I always click on recent to make sure it's not, a nonprofit that was posting 5 years ago. And then you can go through there and take a look at the nonprofit and see if it's something that that you think they would be open to or receptive to. Like, I try to stay away from any nonprofits that have to deal with, drug or alcohol recovery, obviously. And there's some other nonprofits that I steer clear of, but I'm always looking for dog rescues or, looking ahead, like Kimberly said, a couple months ahead for the awareness months. So, sorry, just lost my words. Instagram has been a great way to search as well as Facebook, which is really great.
And that kind of leads us into how to reach out, Beth.
Okay, how to reach out. So that was my first. So how to reach out. So once you make contact, if you have friends or contacts that have someone within a nonprofit that you can reach out to, I always ask them to make an introduction, whether it's through email or sending my contact information to the person within the nonprofit. If you are just Googling, which is normally what I do, or searching on Instagram or Facebook, I'll send a private message or a DM. If you're Googling, you're obviously probably going to be sending an email. So my first initial reach out, let's say I'm reaching out through Instagram, I'm just going to read my message real quick for you guys. And then I can copy and paste it into the chat as well. So if you guys want to save it and use it for your own, you can. And honestly, I'm always the person that's searching for the perfect words to say, and I stress over it constantly. Stephanie is my upline, and the amount of times I've asked her for words to say over the past couple of years, she's probably like shaking her head. But honestly, go on the website and go in our catalog and just pull words straight from there. And it's so simple, and just piece those sentences together. So real quick, if I'm going to send a DM to someone through Instagram, I'll say, hello, I'm writing to ask if you would be interested in a virtual wine tasting as a fundraiser for your organization. I know that most nonprofits have had to postpone their in-person fundraisers, and I'm hoping to offer some help. My name is Beth Spadaccino, and I'm with One Hope Wine and Gifts. We are a cause-centric winery founded on the belief that doing good is good business. Our commitment to quality wine is as important as the causes we support. Through the sale of every bottle and gift, One Hope has donated 5.5 million plus to causes around the world. This is a great way to raise funds for your nonprofit through everyday purchases. Would you be interested in learning more? Always end with a question. If they do not respond within 5 days to a week, I reach back out and say, are you interested in learning more? I'd love to send you an email to give you more information. If they do respond back, I ask them for the best email to send further information to. Once I have their email address, I send them an email. I've pretty much taken the email out of the template from that One Hope provides us, and then kind of just make it your own. Fill in what information you feel like you need. Make sure you include the details about us donating 10% back. And then at the end of that email, I always end with, I would love to jump on a call with you to discuss this further. Let me know if you have some time this upcoming week and what time works best for you. So once you have that email out, the next step is a phone call. Sorry, let me check my notes. But once you jump on a phone call, it's pretty easy to explain how a fundraiser works, whether you guys are doing in person or virtual. I let them know that I've had success doing virtual fundraisers through Facebook groups, through Zoom happy hours. We've also just done it where the nonprofit has posted our link and done a great post a couple times announcing that they're fundraising through One Hope Wines. And I let them know that all of these things have been successful and that we can also layer them on those different options on top of each other, depending on what they feel is the best fit for their nonprofit. And then we move forward from there. Choose a date and you're off and running. Do you guys have any questions on that, or does anyone want to like expound further?
I was just going to say real quick too, as far as you're making like that initial reach out, which is going to be through an email, the best thing you can do is once you send that email, you send that message, your goal is to have a phone call. Because you are now being able to kind of speak with them. Maybe before that phone call, you're going to want to kind of research a little bit about the organization so that you can know what they're about, and you can have something to talk and, you know, be relatable with them about it. But also that's allowing them to get to know you and your personality. So it's going to make it easier and more of a, you know, successful reach out. And most likely you'll be able to kind of partner with that organization. So that's
I feel like I can talk about the phone call all day. Like, cause you know, the goal is to create a relationship. You don't just want to sell One Hope and the wine. You want to ask them about their nonprofit. You want to ask them what's changed since COVID began. Have they had to cancel any fundraisers? And just go from there and get a feel for them and what they're looking for. And I never push it either. I say, you know, I'd love to know if you think this is a good fit for your organization and if you'd like to partner. I never say, if not, I understand, because I don't want to give them an easy out, but I never just want to assume it's going to happen, because at the end of the day, they are a nonprofit and they need to do what's best for their organization, and try not to take it personally.
right. And you can't, exactly.
Yeah.
If, you know,
Yep.
you're always going to get a no, or there's always going to be a reason that, you know, it might not work out, and that's totally okay.
If I could just chime in too, Beth, that was perfect. I was going to say the same thing. Having a conversation with somebody, getting to know the nonprofit, building that relationship. I always like to ask too, you know, do they have a specific goal in mind? Is there something specific they're trying to achieve with this fundraiser? And I like to make sure they know like how we really want to partner to make it the best event possible, and different ways we can do that. But to give an example, I just reached out to a nonprofit who I thought was going to be like an easy, surefire thing. It's the holiday season. Gifting was going to be perfect. I thought, okay, they're going to love this. Like, it's going to happen. And to my surprise, they told me why now wasn't a good time, but January would be. So and that was because they said, listen, now's right, you know, not a good time. We've got something else going. And I said, okay, things are going to calm down in January, and I'm sure they're going to calm down for you too. And they said, yeah, that would actually be better if we could offer, this then. That would be really fun, something to look forward to. So it's not happening next month, but I am putting it in the future. So don't think that just because it's a no right now is a no forever.
Great advice. Absolutely. Did anyone else want to add something to that? So we talked.
Beth,
Go ahead,
no,
Joe.
I was going to say, Beth, you laid it out pretty nicely. I think the email is huge. I think the way you craft your email and the way you address it and the way you cover who you are, meaning personally, and who the organization is and why you're reaching out to them is really important in that first initial email. I also think, obviously, making the phone contact is huge. Thereafter, you have that first email exchange, because I think you can learn a lot about the company, about what they need, and maybe there's another fundraiser that you can run for them. Obviously, you're running a fundraiser for 21 days or 30 days, however long it is. And then, maybe 6 months later, you go back and you run, like I just did one for the Chester County Food Bank, which is a local organization, that is like Chester County. And I have a lot of friends in this area that would support that Chester County Food Bank. But maybe in 6 months, we'll go back and we'll do another fundraiser for Chester County Food Bank. So it's a local organization. There's a lot of ties within friend groups that I have that would buy and support the Chester County Food Bank. So I think it's really important, and the way you laid it out is perfect.
Thank you, Joseph. Yeah, like you said, it's a really great way to build relationships and keep these contacts. I mistakenly reached out to a nonprofit that I had already reached out to. I felt like such a goober, for lack of a better word. And she came back at me and she goes, you can email me directly. It was my contact who I, had a great relationship with. She goes, but we're definitely ready for another fundraiser. So, my mistake worked, but worked in my favor. But they will. These nonprofits really need us and what One Hope has to offer right now. So it's a really cool thing that we have. So, go out and offer to everyone you come across. And like Joe said, once you start reaching out to nonprofits, they're going to be on your radar. You're going to see someone on your Facebook feed fundraising for their birthday, and you're going to reach out to them and ask them if they want to do a wine fundraiser. You're going to see, Joe Schmo is walking to end alls. Well, he can have a wine tasting as well. The wheels are just going to start turning, and there's endless possibilities.
Yeah, and I think when you can host wine events, I think it's obviously much better too, and it opens the doors for many fun type events. Most of the events I'm running are online. People aren't really trying the wine. Now they've tried the wine. Now we're going back for different events. So I think it's been a little bit better that way.
All great tips. I know Beth dove right into during COVID, shared so much with us as far as your emails. And that was your thing. You just kind of okay, we're stuck at home and these organizations need help. And I think that was amazing that you just kind of went in and charged forward.
What's the COVID word of the year? Pivot. We all had
pivot. For sure.
No, it's
pivot.
For anybody. Beth, I think it's key that you kind of share a little bit about what your business looked like pre-COVID, and then how dramatically it changed in COVID, literally the second month in, simply because you shifted your business model per se from just thinking okay, I need to do in-person personal tastings to, I'm reaching out to nonprofits now. And what your first month looked like, it was $5,000 or $6,000 in sales.
That's the great thing about this business. There's so many different directions you can go in. There's so many different ways you can, leverage this company, whether it's corporate gifting, in-home tastings, nonprofit fundraising. I'll be honest, I never had the support from friends and family and my network to do in-home tastings. It's the bread and butter for so many CEs, but I just never had that. So when we couldn't go in person anymore and we were forced to do virtual, I was like, all right, we're going to make this work. And we did. And it's really cool that we're able to still have this opportunity to help others, still make an income. And if anyone else is out there and, you know, they're saying that's me, I don't have that support, I've exhausted my network of close friends and I need to get out of my network, this is where you start. And this call is the perfect place to start. And every leader on Time for Wine crew is here to help you. You know, we're happy to jump on a call. We're happy to do this again. I know Kim Cronin has some awesome information. Joe has some awesome information coming up. So I don't want to talk forever, but we're here to help you guys. You got this.
And before we go right into fundraising and Facebook events, Kim is going to kick us off with that, her specialty. I real quickly just wanted to touch upon, we're talking about fundraisers and we're talking about hosting events, how to just create your event. I just want to kind of like real quickly kind of skim over it, because there is a video in the training center of your CE dashboard that tells you, you know, step by step how to create your event. Some of the perks that we're talking about with fundraising is that when an event is created, One Hope is going to donate 10% from all of the purchases of the event to that nonprofit. The other perks is that the host gets 10% in host rewards. So that's wonderful too. If you're working with a nonprofit, they can use that, that donation money, the wine credits, for maybe thank you gifts for some of their donors or volunteers. But when you are creating your event, I'm just going to share my screen to show where it's located real quick. You're going to want to go onto your CE dashboard. If everybody can see my screen, it should pop up in like 1 second. Oh, there we go. So you would log into your www.onehopewine.com, and then you're going to come right over here to the left-hand column, and you'll select events. And then it's pretty straightforward when you're creating an event. You're just going to go over here, create your new event, and you're going to plug in the details. So it's just going to give you some options as far as if it's going to be an in-person or online. And then it's going to be the contact information. And it looks like my computer is not cooperating right now. But the things that you're going to want to know when you're creating that event is going to be the information from the nonprofit. So you're going to want to know the host name, their contact email and phone number. And then you're also going to need to know the name of the nonprofit, the address, because that's going to be important as far as when your event closes. One Hope is going to be sending and mailing out a check to them. You're also going to have a their tax ID number. We can really fundraise for any 501c3 nonprofit, other than if there's a political affiliation, but any other 501c3 we are able to fundraise for. And since my computer is not cooperating, I'm not going to walk you through how to create the event, but I will post the video that is on the training center that will show you exactly how to walk through. So let's kick it off over to Kim Cronin, and she's going to share. Kim came right in during COVID too, and she just shared with us last week that I think she did her first in-person event. Everything she's done virtually, and you have seen her as well as a lot of her other teammates, Joe, Beth, all as like top sellers in the company, all doing these virtual fundraisers.
So yeah, so I'm the opposite of Beth, and that I've had to learn how to do in person. I've been getting people like, oh, I want to do in person. I'm like, no, Facebook. So that's just not my comfort zone, but I had to learn that too very quickly. but doesn't, it is fun, but that's a whole other Zoom. But shoot, I had two things that came to mind that I wanted to just things that I thought of. One, I heard this on another training, so I did not come up with this, but reaching out to the nonprofits of your past parties. So let's say I did a fundraiser last month for a nonprofit, a rescue nonprofit in our area, and it was a huge success. Like these people wanted to save like every pet like in the world. So we raised a lot of money, like literally almost half of my sales. My sales were big last month, like came from this one party. So they're on my radar. Like I haven't done it yet, but it's in my to-do list that I'm going to reach out to the actual nonprofit and say, hey, you know, so-and-so or did a fundraiser for you, because I'm actually going to wait. They'll get the check this month. So I'm going to wait until I know that they got the check. They're just going to get a check from One Hope. In the memo line, I always put like who the host is, so they know like who did the fundraising for them. But my plan is to follow up with them and say, hey, you know, we cut you a check, so and so did a fundraiser, and I'll use like kind of like the verbiage that Beth shared on, would you like to post something, you know, whether in the winter, the spring, whatever. But I got that. I have no idea where that reaching out to your past party beneficiaries is a good idea. So that is something, at least, especially when they're really good ones, because they're going to see like, oh, we got this check for $400. No idea where it came from. And especially when they are the small local nonprofits, like getting $100 check to them like goes a long way. So talking about like doing the party. So all of my fundraising, like minus a few things that I've done, have been all on Facebook. I did do a YouTube training. I have a video on like more detail. If you guys, I've shared it in here before. By here meaning In Time for Wine Crew. So it's like more detail, like the nitty gritty, but focusing on like the fundraising piece and how I really focus, like how I really get people excited about that. One is getting the nonprofit, getting the host involved. So honestly, most of my parties that I have done have been like I had a host and they picked a charity. But the ones that have been the most successful have been the ones where they were like either they're on the board of that charity, they're like an active participant in that charity. I did do one in August for the actual nonprofit, and that was definitely a very successful one because they're engaged, and I ask them, you know, can you post? Can you go live? Can you, you know, I'll like spoon feed them like what I'm looking for, but I don't believe in saying, oh, you don't have to do anything, I'll do all the work, because it's not going to be successful. Like, don't say that. You want them to be involved, you want them to be engaged, because the people that they invite to this Facebook party know them, they don't know you. I mean, 9 times out of 10. So you want your host, whether it's a nonprofit or a person, to be like posting and interacting. And I tell them like, hey, I know maybe you're working or you're remote, like working with your kids. At night, can you just go through the posts and interact? I tag the host in my posts because again, it's going to show up, be more likely with the Facebook algorithm to show up in there in the feed. So getting that host interaction and involvement and engagement is huge. When they're not involved, my parties are literally like bomb. They're not good. But when they're involved and active, they're really good. I make sure that when I'm whatever my party is, whatever cause we're supporting, I try to find like so I have plug and play scripts for my fundraisers so that I'm not reinventing the wheel. So every single party, I use an app where I have everything all organized, but then I make sure to customize each one so they're not like if completely identical. So the core things are predetermined, like posts that I do. But if I'm doing a fundraiser for breast cancer, then I'm going to make sure that I'm really talking up the Chardonnay and doing specific posts on, the clinical trials that we have funded through our Chardonnay, obviously the pink glitter. I have one of my fundraisers right now it's a host who happens to work for the New England, I live in New England, she works for the New England Susan G. Komen regional, I don't know what her title is, but so that's her choice, that's who we're fundraising for. And so I shared the video that Kristen Schroyer did, where she interviewed the CEO from Susan G. Komen, and I shared that in my party, just really making it more personal, sharing how One Hope, really the first fundraiser we did, like our first check that we cut was to Susan G. Komen. If it's a fundraiser for like the rescue fundraiser that I did, that was huge. I focused on our Pinots because our Pinot for Paws. So I made sure, to really focus on the things that I knew that the audience was interested in. Maybe we don't have a wine that supports every cause. Well, I'll say Alzheimer's, for example. We don't have a wine that goes towards Alzheimer's, but maybe I'll pick like cancer, or maybe I'll pick like the Team Rubicon. I'll pick something, but if we do have a wine that correlates to the cause, that's going to be I'm going to talk that up a lot during the course of however long your event is. What else? In my parties, you want to make it interactive and make it fun. So just couple of quick tips on that is just making sure that you're not just talking about wine and sharing wine information and sharing all, when I say like corporate pictures, like just stuff that's in the shareables, like you've got to share stuff that, that's you. If you don't have any wine yet, ask any of us, like use our like home pictures, because it just makes it more personal as opposed to, I think, salesy. So I do use some, there are times where you have to use, the shareables, and they are very pretty, but I try to use maybe a picture of me with my wine, my actual, Chardonnay, pink glitter Chardonnay that just came in, showing what I have. It just makes it more personal. And then making it interactive, asking questions, not just posting about wine, but just posting about the charity, but doing polls, asking, and I do a lot of what charities are important to you. This is how I book my parties. This is how I have a party every single week. I'm already almost booked through November. And this is how, because every single event that I do, I make sure I really just focus on, this is our focus. Our focus is doing good. Our focus is on raising money. Again, like we've raised $5.6 million so far in 5 years. And what cause is important to you? And get people thinking. So by the end of the week, when my party is over, they're messaging me saying, oh, I want to book a fundraiser. Like, how do I do that? No, not every single party I book one, but I would say at least half of my parties, I book another fundraiser. And it's just, that's like that networking, especially if you're not getting it from like your friends and family, like getting those connections. I was fortunate that when I started, I had a lot of connections in like nonprofit, like when I started, but that dried up very quickly. And so it was really important to me to just network through, okay, what's important to you? It could be your PTA. It doesn't have to be a big, Stephanie said this, like, you don't want the big giant charities. You want the things that are going to hit people like in the heart, because those are the charities that are struggling. I co-founded a charity. I know, like, we're like struggling because we had to cancel all of our events for the year in person. And so asking them, like, what does it, like, okay, if you, I don't know, had $100, like, what could $100 do? So in posting that in the party, the one for the rescue that I did, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I'm just going to make it up. Like $100 bought enough pet food for 2 people to, not adopt, but what's that? What's that other word? When they don't adopt, but they're temporarily taking them. Foster.
Foster.
Ugh, it's late. This is late for me. So I would show, like, okay, with $100, this is what $100 can do. So we need to sell 5 more bottles of wine. And if we sell 5 more bottles of wine, that's another bag of dog food for a foster family. So showing, like, in your parties, like, if we raise X amount of money, this is specifically what we can do. Not just we're going to send, $200, but to the rescue, but the rescue is going to use that $200 to do X and make it very tangible so they can see. And I found that was really helpful in that party. The one that I'm doing now is for Susan G. Komen, and I'm finding it is a challenge because it is such a big organization, and it's not as personal because it's not, again, it's a drop in the bucket. Our $200 is going to be a drop in the bucket compared to what they raise. So I'm really focusing on the people that are in my party that have been affected by breast cancer. Like, I'm not asking them to share personal stories, but we're talking about, 1 in 8 women, and the clinical studies that we're funding and things like that, and just making it as personal as possible. And I think that was it. Oh, the other thing, just to raise, because the other part of what I was supposed to talk about was, boosting sales, keeping the energy going. And, I'm kind of having this with my party right now. I'm like, oh, it's kind of like slowing down. So I want to make sure that I shout out every single order. I don't care if they buy 1 bottle. Every time somebody places an order, I have like my, a folder in my phone with like 10 different pretty graphics that say thank you for your order. So they're different, so I'm not posting the same thing. I don't care if I get 10 orders. If I get 10 orders in a day, I'm going to post 10 different times, because I want the people to see, oh, like, I want them to have FOMO, like, oh, everyone else is getting their wine orders in. I'm also going to do like a countdown. So today I didn't have any orders in my party today, and I'm like, that's not acceptable. I need orders every day. Like, I don't know if I'm getting, spoiled, but I'm like, no, I want to see orders every single day coming into my email. So I did a post, and it was, okay, we're 8 bottles away from doing a raffle, because I do raffles, and I don't do anything expensive. I do these cheap little raffles. Again, it's like I've talked about that before, but again, this is $1 from the Target, $1. It's not like I'm spending oodles of money. Wine toppers, but this is $2. But people like go crazy of like this cheapo stuff because it's fun and it's wine and they just want to win. But making that urgency of, okay, in 10 bottles or 8 bottles or whatever you set, we're going to do a raffle. And so I did that post, and I'm hoping before I go to bed that I have some more orders come in. And I think that was it for my tips. I hope that wasn't too much.
Those were like excellent tips. And I think you touched upon it great, as far as like the host coaching is huge, because you definitely need them involved. It's definitely going to be their circle. So they're like key to really helping to make sure that the event is successful. We had a little bit of as far as a virtual wine tasting. So Kim, what you were saying is when you do a Facebook group, everybody's just purchasing the wine. Nobody's trying the wine. So again, it's no cost to the organization to hold an online event. But we've also done some kind of like a happy hour wine tasting. And I know, Beth, did you recently just have one? Did you want to share a little bit as far as doing like a virtual happy hour?
Couldn't unmute. Yeah, so I've done virtual happy hours a couple different ways. The most recent one I had last night was a gentleman who wanted to do a networking event for people in his finance group and inviting new people into it. So he sent 2 bottles of wine to 10 people in his group and asked them to pick 10 people, new people, to come in. So they had their wine in advance. We tasted 2 different wines, and it was a really fun night. So we talked about the wines, we talked about the give back, One Hope. He did a little bit of networking and icebreakers, which took up a little more time than I normally like when I'm hosting my own happy hours, because I don't get to talk about all the extras like wine club and all the fun stuff that One Hope offers. But I'm going to follow up with everyone with an email, just letting them know all the different options that One Hope has, whether it's corporate gifting, if they want to purchase further, and continue the give back, because he was fundraising for one of One Hope's nonprofits, Why Hunger, through the purchase of wines that he sent out as gifts. Another way is completely informal, and it can be so random. So Nicole, for example, say you want to get your girlfriends together because you haven't seen them in forever. Say, hey, I'm having a Zoom happy hour tomorrow. Here's the link. I'm going to be talking about my new wine business. I'd love for you guys to jump on, learn a little more, and support me in my new business if you can. Everyone can jump on. They don't have to have One Hope wine. They can, have tea, coffee, water, any alcoholic beverages they want. You can talk more about One Hope and share the shopping link. Let them know that you're fundraising for, a nonprofit that's really important to you. And then ask everyone to take a look at the link when the event's over, and they can purchase and support your business and cause. So you can do it 2 different ways, or you can combine both. You can tell people to purchase wine beforehand, or show up without it and learn more and go from there.
I love that. And then I also know that, Joe, you've also done events where it's not even on Facebook.
Yeah, so most of my events, I'll just post maybe the first time we're starting an event. And then I use my own resources and the people network that I have, and the influence of talking to other people, like their friends, and getting them, introduced to the wine and so on and so forth. So I don't really use Facebook that much to promote. I know it is a good tool, but I just use it for basically to announce the first event that I'm going to do. I usually use my network to kind of ramp up an event. So the events that I've run, so I've gone through 2, which is TAPS and Mediteti. And then I did the Chester County Food Bank, which was introduced to me from a friend that I started talking to, and I thought it was a great organization. And the friend's son works for them, and does a lot of charity work for them. So I thought it was a great organization, and I connected with them that way. And then personally, I have connections through my college and my high school that I played football for, and we couldn't do our golf outings this year and things like that. So I thought, this is great. We can do a Zoom event, Zoom happy hour, promote One Hope wine, and get the teams buying the wine, plus my connections that I have buying the wine, which was great. I mean, it just it worked out really well. And both St. Joe's Prep and Catholic University got a good amount of money that made up for a little bit for the lack of a golf outing and fundraiser this year. So just connecting and thinking about different organizations that haven't been able to fundraise this year has been very successful for the One Hope message and everything that we've been trying to extend.
That's awesome. And I love that there's so many different ways that you can do a fundraiser. So I think that's what's so important is when you're working with those organizations, just to kind of feel them out and see what they're looking for. I think Stephanie and Beth, the last thing I don't think we really touched upon, as far as doing a Facebook Live, was it Steph, did you or Beth do a Facebook Live on the nonprofit page?
I did with a nonprofit. We went live together. There was actually 4 of us, and we streamed it from Zoom. Because of Facebook's rules, we couldn't do it on their page with all 4 of us together. So we did a stream, and we did a happy hour. We did a Wine Wednesday happy hour. We promoted it before it happened, told everybody to grab their favorite glass and join us. And we just had a conversation about One Hope and how we're gonna help the organization and what they were gonna do with it, really casual. And then we immediately posted the link when we were done. They put it in the chat box, and it worked out really well. So it was a fun one.
I love it. So there's so many different avenues that you can fundraise for these organizations. I'm checking in the chat box if we have any questions. What I'd like to do too is, Beth, I just realized that you actually texted that entire email out over there, which was like really impressive. Or did you copy and paste maybe?
That's just the message I would send through DM or private message.
Gotcha.
But honestly,
Well,
it is the first paragraph of my email as well, because normally the person who is handling the social media account is not the person who's getting the email. So it's a great way to still introduce One Hope and yourself, and then continue on with more details into your email.
I love it. And I was going to say, you are like a fast typer, to put that in there.
And please excuse any typos. My grammar is not my strong suit.
All good. All good. So we will copy and paste all of that so that you have those resources and the reach outs. But I wanted to see if anybody had any questions from tonight that we didn't touch upon. And feel free, you can unmute yourself if you want to shout out the question. Did anybody else want to chime in with any other information that we missed? I saw Dana pop on. Hi, Dana. Dana also has some really great tips with fundraising.
The one thing that, I want to bring up, and this has been very successful for me, is corporate gifting. It's really powerful. And I think if you hook in with the right organizations and you curtail that corporate gifting to a charity that the organization supports, you're just getting around the holiday season, and it's huge. I've reached out to a bunch of colleagues that I do work with in different phases of my business. I'm a real estate developer, and I know they all send corporate gifts to my house. And I just reached out and I said, listen, this is a great organization. You can name the charity you want to give it to. The wine is excellent. It's Napa Valley wine. And, I reached out to a few of my colleagues to maybe think about corporate gifting instead of doing their traditional gift baskets and stuff like that. Give the wine box with 2 bottles of wine, and I sent them over the corporate gift packages. So it's a great way to actually attack and support a charity, even if it's a charity that you're working with, and you can talk to someone about, that charity that you're working with and do it together. That's a great way to knock down a lot of wine.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
Because I have a lot of corporate contacts from my full-time job, and always have gotten corporate gifts and such. So I've wanted to reach out to a bunch of them. What is the process? What happens after you reach out? And if they're like, oh, hey, I'm interested, do you get corporate involved, or can you just give me a brief rundown of how that would work?
Yeah. So what I do is we get a bunch of emails on the corporate gift catalog and things that you can show as corporate gifting. So what I did was I sent it out to 2 colleagues that I know give gifts through the holidays. And I actually emailed them the corporate catalog and I said, this would be a great gift idea to give out, to all your clients. And you can name the charity you want to give it to, especially if there's a struggling charity that you guys, kind of work with corporately. 10% of whatever, wine you purchase is going to go back to that charity. So I kind of laid that out in an email. And then, obviously I'm close with some of these people and get on the phone and talk to them about it. And then once that happens, because I've done 2 corporate gift packages, you can contact someone at corporate, and then you can work with the company to kind of Excel spreadsheet whoever they want to send them to. They give the addresses, emails, and it's just a process. And actually One Hope makes it very easy once you make the contact with that person, and you can kind of guide the the corporate person that you're dealing with along, whoever does their administrative work with One Hope Wine, and it's a pretty easy process. Yeah.
They definitely do make it easy. It's really, if you make the introduction, corporate gifting side will take it from there for you. And we can absolutely do another call on that, because we could go for an hour on corporate gifting too. But it's definitely the season. So I guess maybe our next Wine Wednesday, we'll have to come up with a corporate gifting training.
I brought it up because I did it with the Chester County Food Bank. So that's why I kind of tied it in. And then for my first event, we had a corporate gift for taps. So we worked it in there too. So it's worked out on my first event, and my event that I just did now. So.
And that's awesome, because it just increases their donation. It's a perfect tie-in.
I just wanted to point this out here. If you get into, like Beth said, if you don't have a strong network of friends and family right now who are buying wine and helping you branch out, this is a great way to build that customer base. Because then when somebody buys wine from you, they're going to become PCs. You'll be able to follow up. So it's a way to get outside of your circle real quick.
Yes, and to add to that, when I create these Facebook groups, they don't disappear like an event does. So that's really beneficial, because I have a whole list of groups that I can go to that are completely, they're done. That was 3 months ago, but I can say, hey, such and so requested that I reopen an event for such and so nonprofit, but I wanted to let all of you know as well, if you're ready to reorder and need a wine refill, here's the link, and you can support XYZ nonprofit again. Or when a really good sale comes up, I'll pretend that such and so wanted me to reopen a link, and I'll make sure I have a link open for them. And I usually get to, I get so many different orders reoccurring from these events, which is really cool. And I've never had anyone say, no, like, please stop, don't do this anymore. So it's a great way. And like Stephanie said, you can reach back out to everyone who's ordered. I don't try to press my luck too much. I know some people reach out constantly or monthly. I probably go back every 3 months and see who ordered 3 months previously, and go through that entire list and do a reach out and let them know, if you want me to reopen a fundraiser for the original nonprofit you supported, I'm happy to do that as well. And that's the great thing. One Hope has all of our contacts listed and all of their order details in our dashboard. So you can go back and totally snoop and see what everyone ordered, get all the details on them, and send really nice personalized messages to them. Not trying to be creepy.
No, but it's so great. It is perfect reach outs to have your reoccurring customers come through. And you're great customer service, because you're then making sure that if they need any more red blend specifically. Let's see, any other questions? We are a little over the hour. I wanted to thank everybody for popping on tonight. This was an amazing call. Thank you to Joe, Beth, Kim, and Steph for sharing all of your great tips with us. And this is recorded, so I'm going to, as soon as it's uploaded, I will share it on the team page. But yeah, I think we're going to have the information for you, so feel free to take the words to say for the email or text message, and start kind of playing around with Googling some of the nonprofits in your area. The best thing you can do is just get started and try it out, and know that, you know, some people are going to respond and say yes, and other times you might get a no, but that's okay. But that's it. Just kind of get started, and this is the perfect time because we are in the holiday season, and nonprofits are looking for help with their donations. So thank you again so much for jumping on tonight, and I hope everybody has a great evening.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you,
Thank
Laura.
you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you, Laura.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
everyone.
See ya.
Thank you. Good night. Good night.
Have a good night.